Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, and we're going to begin with they're back, the Stefon Diggs rumors, as Trevon Diggs continues to push for a reunion with his brother in Dallas. And I will absolutely respect the hell out of Trevon and Micah for recruiting players to Dallas, even though, well, that's a conversation we'll get into here in a little bit. Diggs has made public comments wanting Stefon in Dallas. Then he posted this on his Instagram yesterday. It's an awesome fire edit, by the way, of Stefon Diggs in a Cowboys jersey. I love that edit. It looks awesome. It looks great with a star on his helmet and the icy Cowboys jerseys. We'll go in depth on this, and it's a great idea. I love the idea behind it. Hopes are low. But it's time to start sending some energy out there into the universe for the Cowboys doing stuff this offseason. So send that energy and type me if you want Stefon Diggs in Dallas. Type it multiple times if you want, right now in the comment section. I'll begin with saying I appreciate Trevon Diggs trying to get Big Bro to Dallas. I do. I'm glad when my top players do that. You've seen Micah Parsons do it. Dak Prescott did it. Other players have done it. But there are complications and problems beyond making it happen in Madden, right? For starters, the reason why we all like the idea is because Stefon Diggs is good at football. All those issues you had of receivers not named CeeDee Lamb, not getting open, not being reliable, consistent playmakers, that goes away if you add Stefon Diggs. And from the Cowboys' perspective, it actually is a very doable contract on their end. You add Lamb along with Stefon Diggs, you can ship out Michael Gallup if you want. Not that that's a likely outcome. But either way, a duo at receiver led by Lamb and Diggs. At that point, wide receiver 3, you can go cheap. You can try a Jalin Tolbert again, another mid-round draft pick. You've got such a dynamic 1-2 punch. You're in fantastic shape there. But as we've said before on this show, you can't get your hopes up. This is not a likely outcome for either side because it doesn't make sense for half of the parties involved. The Cowboys, it makes sense. You would owe him $8.42 million this year. Buffalo, if they trade him right now, on top of his $20.27 million cap hit, they incur an additional $17.3 million in dead money. So they're paying him $20.3 and $17.3. They're not going to pay almost $40 million to not have an awesome wide receiver 1 on their roster. That doesn't make sense for a team trying to win football games right now with Josh Allen. That's bad business organization. Even if Diggs demands a trade, they probably say no. Now, after June 1st, it's a little bit more likely, but then you're not getting anything to help you in terms of draft picks this year. So I love the idea. It's a great Madden move, but I don't think as we sit here right now pre-draft, it makes any sense. Maybe it could change if he throws a hissy fit again at camp, but I kind of don't think that ends up being the case. So the pinned comment on today's show, and I want you to be honest with me. We sent the good vibes out earlier. Now it's time to be realists. What's the % chance the Cowboys trade for Stefon Diggs? It's the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's talk draft now. Then we'll get to some coaching updates for you guys here. Todd McShay has put out his latest 2023 NFL mock draft. We'll break down the Cowboys selection. First, some notable players who went off the board. A run on receivers, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jigba go off the board. The corners all went early, too. Long gone were Devin Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez and Joey Porter Jr., Cam Smith, Keely Ringo also go off the board. Bijan Robinson, half you hate it, half you love it. He's off the board as well. Todd had the Cowboys taking O'Cyrus Torrence, the guard out of Florida. I'm a pretty big fan of his. It is another premium investment in an offensive lineman, which does raise some potential concerns for me, but that is significant in terms of adding an offensive guard who we'll spend some more time on in depth here in just a second. Today's Cowboys Report is sponsored by Cultivate, the free browser extension that brings transparency to your Amazon shopping experience. Cultivate shows you the brand, seller, or product origin and identifies local alternatives that support local community efforts while saving you money. With over 50% of Amazon U.S. sellers based in China, Cultivate offers a way to avoid trickery from these sellers and keep money in the U.S. economy. Cultivate offers alternatives that are on average 30% less expensive than Amazon without any additional costs such as Amazon Prime. It can even identify local alternatives that you can pick up the same day. Cultivate users earn free donations as rewards for using the extension, and the more you use it, the more you earn in donations by increasing your level. In fact, Cultivate donates 51% of the revenue they make on your purchase. So what are you waiting for? Go to wecultivate.us/chatsports and download Cultivate for free. Let Cultivate bring transparency, savings, and community support to your Amazon shopping journey. Support the show and download with our link. It's down in the comments and the description of today's video. Now, with the way the board fell, I wouldn't have very many complaints about taking O'Cyrus Torrence, who I think I personally am a little bit higher on than the consensus out there right now among us fellow draft nerds. Torrence was awesome this year at Florida. He was probably going to be a top 50 pick had he not transferred from Louisiana to Florida, made the choice, and didn't lose a beat in terms of his overall play. Has not allowed a sack in his entire collegiate career, a multi-year starter. Now, his feet are probably, I'd say, average in terms of quickness. He's not someone you want doing a bunch of big-time pulls and constant outside zone reps. But if you want a mauler who's a good run blocker and his strength allows him to survive in pass protection, that's really intriguing to me. The issue I run into, most of all, specifically for Dallas, is, hey, what kind of scheme do they want to run in terms of their blocking? Is it more heavy gap? Is it more power? Is it more inside zone? They're going to run more outside zone. We'll see what they decide there. I think it might be more inside zone this year. Torrence has only really played on the right side of the offensive line. He'd have to move to left guard for Dallas because, well, you have Zach Martin in there. It would greatly increase your ground game capabilities. I think Torrence would be, if not the best player on the board, probably one of the best players on my personal board with the way it fell previously. Other guys I would consider based on the way it fell for McShay was maybe a tight end like Dalton Kincaid. Jalin Hyatt does intrigue me because I want speed on offense. Drew Sanders as a linebacker off ball as kind of some hybrid between Leighton Vander Esch and Deonte Hightower. He's a local kid. He'll probably be a 30 visit or a local visit for Dallas. Deonte Banks fits the mold of what they're looking for in cornerback, especially opposite Trevon Diggs. Nolan Smith will be highly graded on my board. But when the receivers and corners are gone and you have the best pure guard, I'm counting Peter Skronsky as a tackle, by the way, from Northwestern, I would not be mad at the pick of O'Cyrus Torrence at all. I'd give it at least a B. What would you guys grade it? Head down to the comments section and sound off. A, B, C, D, or F. In the event it's O'Cyrus Torrence in round 1 for the Cowboys, how would you feel about that selection? Before we go, some coaching hires have been announced/reported by the Dallas Cowboys. 2 names, Ramon Young, now an assistant offensive line coach, and Will Harriger, an offensive assistant. No particular designation for him yet. I would assume it's some type of just assistant to the OC or even assistant quarterback coach, something in that range. We'll break down both those guys, but the Cowboys are not done making coaching hires yet. Namely, the quarterback and running back jobs are unfilled at this stage, which does seem somewhat significant. So we will keep you guys covered on that. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button for me right now so you don't miss out on any other news from the coaching world as it relates to Dallas. Let's break down Ramon Young, who's had a very interesting path to life in the NFL. Coming off a year as a Broncos quality control coach. Before that, was a Houston area high school coach. That's what he was doing. Fort Bend, producer Jeremy, who's from Houston, says pretty good. He was the head coach there, was Westfield High School assistant head coach and offensive line coach. The report of it was up-and-coming young coach, which, I would assume that if you're hiring someone with 1 year in the NFL, they are up-and-coming. Otherwise, it'd be super weird. Assistant offensive line coach is his designation. I will make note, Jeff Blasco was the assistant offensive line coach. He was not announced as leaving the organization, but that's the same job. You're not going to have 2 of them. Blasco was a Philbin guy. This, I would assume, means Blasco's out in Dallas, and Young is the new assistant offensive line coach, so firing and hiring there. Next up is Will Harriger, who was last year the assistant quarterbacks coach, worked closely with Caleb Williams, USC offensive assistant. I jokingly said on Twitter, Caleb Williams confirmed. Joke, but it'd be fun, right? Falcons offensive assistant, Seattle offensive assistant as well for several years there. Dan Quinn overlap is what is so interesting on that standpoint in terms of the fit and the role. I will also make note there is overlap when this is what is more important. Offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer will overlap briefly with Herringer in Seattle and for a year in Jacksonville. So I think that's what it's more about, less so the Dan Quinn connection, because they both overlap from their time in Seattle. That is it for today's show. If you made it to the end, you're a real one. I appreciate that. Head down to the comment section, type in real one right now so we can show you guys some love.